My coworker refused to learn new software, snapping, "I shouldn't have to change. The company should work around me." Weeks later, he laughed, "They'll never get rid of me. They need me too much." The next morning, he arrived at work and found his desk empty. HR handed him a paper and said, "Since you refuse to adapt, we're letting you go." His mouth hung open as I walked past, smiling. I work at a mid-sized tech company in Austin, Texas. Our office combines open spaces and cubicles, with the constant hum of keyboards and occasional bursts of laughter. Among my colleagues, one stood out not for his brilliance, but for his stubbornness. Let's call him Bob. Bob had been with the company for over 2 decades. He was in his late 50s, with graying hair and a perpetual scowl. His desk was a chaotic mess of papers, old coffee cups, and outdated manuals. Despite the evolving tech landscape, Bob remained steadfast in his old ways. Our company decided to transition to a new project management software to streamline our workflows. Training sessions were organized, and everyone was encouraged to get on board. Bob, however, was resistant. He grumbled during meetings and often made snide remarks about newfangled tools. One afternoon, during a team meeting, our manager emphasized the importance of adapting to the new system. Bob crossed his arms and declared, "I shouldn't have to change. The company should work around me." The room fell silent. Our manager, trying to maintain composure, responded, "Bob, it's essential for everyone to be on the same page. This change is for the betterment of the team." Bob scoffed and muttered under his breath. Weeks passed, and while the rest of us were getting the hang of the new software, Bob remained obstinate. He continued using outdated methods, causing delays and miscommunications. One evening, as we were wrapping up, Bob leaned back in his chair and chuckled, "They'll never get rid of me. They need me too much." Some of us exchanged uneasy glances, but said nothing. The next morning, Bob arrived at work to find his desk cleared. His personal items were packed neatly in a box. HR was waiting for him with a letter. "Bob, since you refuse to adapt, we're letting you go," they stated plainly. Bob's face turned pale. He stammered, but I've been here for 20 years. HR remained firm, and in those 20 years, the company has evolved. We need team members who are willing to evolve with us. As Bob stood there, processing the reality, I walked past him, unable to hide a small smile. Change is inevitable, and adaptability is key in the ever-evolving world of technology. Bob didn't just leave quietly. After HR walked him out that day, the office was tense. No one said much. People just typed a little slower, glanced around more often, spoke in hushed voices. It wasn't that anyone liked Bob. Most of us had worked around him, not with him. But when someone who's been around that long gets fired on the spot, it makes people think they might be next. I kept my head down, focused on learning the new software. I'd actually picked it up pretty quickly. Not because I was good with tech, but because I didn't want to get stuck like Bob. A week later, someone noticed Bob's LinkedIn profile was updated. Consultant. Change strategist. 20+ years experience leading high-impact teams. It got a few eye rolls. Then someone pointed out he had connected with a bunch of our clients we had signed under long-term deals. That's when it got weird. 2 clients pulled out of their contracts the same week. They didn't give much detail, just said they were going in a different direction. One of the sales managers, Jason, looked spooked. "I think Bob's poaching," he said during lunch, whispering over his sandwich like we were in a spy movie. I didn't believe it at first. But I started watching, checking names, matching timelines. He was going after our clients. And he was being smart about it. Around the same time, weird things started happening with the software. Tickets were disappearing. Files were getting overwritten or corrupted. We'd just blame bugs or glitches, but one day I found a file that wasn't supposed to be there. It was a doc named migration_plan_v2. It had lists, client names, migration strategies, timelines. I sent it straight to our IT head. He brought in the cybersecurity team. They didn't say much, but the next morning they blocked all external drives and started tracking IP activity. Bob had installed remote access software weeks before he left. No one caught it during the offboarding. I got called into HR. Why did you send that file to IT? I thought I was in trouble. But instead, they thanked me. Said I probably saved the company from a much bigger disaster. Bob had been in the system after he was fired, feeding himself info. They'd already contacted legal. But that wasn't the end. A few days later, I found a note on my windshield in the company lot. Just a folded paper with my name. Inside, "You think you've won. This isn't over." There were no cameras in that part of the lot. No proof. I reported it anyway. Security was tightened. They moved my desk away from the front windows. I was told to work remote for a few weeks. People were scared to talk about it. But the rumor was Bob was suing. Something about wrongful termination, claiming the software rollout wasn't in his job description. Total BS, but enough to drag the company into court. The twist? One of the executives, someone high up, was friends with Bob. College roommates, apparently. And he was not happy about how things had gone down. Suddenly, he started showing up at our team meetings. Not saying much. Just watching, asking loaded questions. I overheard him once on a call saying, there were better ways to handle this. I had a feeling this was about to get messy. A week into working from home, I got an unexpected email. No subject. Just a message that said, check your credentials. Things aren't always what they seem. It came from a burner address, the kind you can't trace. I thought maybe it was spam at first, but something about it felt intentional. I double-checked my logins, reset passwords, activated two-factor authentication everywhere. That night, I couldn't sleep. The line, "Things aren't always what they seem," kept echoing in my head. The next morning, I got another message, this time through Slack, from Jason. "Did you approve the vendor change for the training module?" "What vendor change?" I typed back. He sent a screenshot. My name, my digital signature, dated 3 days prior. Approving a switch in software licensing to a company I'd never even heard of. I checked the timestamp. I wasn't even logged in that day. It hit me, Bob. He hadn't just accessed the system. He'd impersonated me. I called IT, explained everything. They pulled the logs and found more. It wasn't just me. He had created backdoor admin accounts for at least 3 former employees. Every one of them had left the company under suspicious or hostile conditions. It looked like Bob had been building a network inside the system long before he got fired. A digital molehill turned mountain. Meanwhile, that executive I mentioned earlier, let's call him Charles, kept acting strange. He'd sit in on our calls, nod along, say nothing. But then we found out something that made everything click. Charles had helped Bob set up one of our earliest contract systems. They'd worked side by side when the company was small. And more than that, they were tied together financially. One of the now defunct vendors we'd used in the past? Turns out Charles had been an investor. Quietly. Through a shell LLC. So, when the company dropped Bob and shifted away from the old systems Charles had helped build and possibly profited from, he wasn't just losing a friend. He was losing money, legacy, control. Our CEO got wind of all this. And that's when the power plays started. Suddenly, emails stopped getting returned. Approvals stalled. IT was told to focus on priority projects. HR started treading lightly, talking about restructuring and culture shifts. The vibe shifted overnight. And then it hit even closer to home. My access to the new software? Suspended. No warning. Just locked out. I called IT. It says you're no longer authorized for that environment, they said. It came from upstairs. Upstairs meant Charles. I realized what was happening. I was being iced out. Silently. No termination, no meeting. Just slowly erased. That night, I backed up everything I had. Emails, screenshots, Slack messages, metadata from the fraudulent vendor approval. All of it. And I sent one file. To the CEO. Subject line, Internal compromise, critical timeline attached. I didn't sleep that night either. When I woke up, my work laptop had a blinking red login screen. Account disabled. But my phone buzzed. Unknown number. I answered. Stay quiet for now, the voice said. You did the right thing. We're handling it. Click. That's when I realized this wasn't just about Bob. This was way bigger. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. No more messages. No phone calls. No updates. I was still locked out of the system. I worked from my personal laptop, half expecting a knock at my door, or maybe some kind of legal notice. Nothing came. Then Friday morning, I got an email from the CEO directly. Meet me at 11. Conference room 6A. Bring everything. I didn't know if this was going to be a thank you or a firing, but I showed up. He was already there. So was the head of IT, the head of HR, and surprise Charles. The CEO asked me to walk through everything. So I did. I explained the emails, the fake approvals, the burner account, the backdoor logins, the vendor link to Charles. I didn't embellish. I showed receipts. I stayed calm, but my hands were sweating the whole time. When I finished, Charles laughed. Actually laughed. Then he stood up, looked at the CEO, and said, "You're going to believe this over 20 years of loyalty?" The CEO didn't laugh. Instead, he handed Charles a thick folder. Legal's been investigating. We found the paper trail. Offshore accounts. Conflicts of interest. You're done. Charles froze. You can't, we already did. Charles stormed out. Security followed. Then the CEO turned to me. We owe you a huge debt. But, there it was. But. You also approved that file access Bob used. Months ago. You vouched for him in one of the early system audits. That oversight gave him the window. I felt it like a gut punch. He was right. I did sign off on an old system access log without checking it carefully. It was routine. Rushed. I was tired that day. I'd missed it. I nodded. I understand. You're not fired, he said. But this won't be forgotten. You're being moved to a different department. No system access for now. Rebuild trust. Fair. I walked out with mixed feelings. I'd taken down Charles. Exposed Bob. But I'd left a crack in the door they used to slip in. I found out later that Bob got hit with a cease and desist, and legal action is pending. He's still trying to spin the story online, acting like a martyr. But the industry is small. Word spreads. Charles lost everything. His stake in the company, his rep, probably his friends. As for me, I still go to work. Different desk now. Fewer meetings. More quiet. I keep my head down. Check everything twice. No shortcuts. Sometimes I wonder if I should have just minded my own business. Let Bob hang himself in his own mess. But then I remember that note on my car. That smug smirk on his face when he thought he was untouchable. No regrets. Even if I paid a price. They underestimated me. All of them. Never again.